Hi, welcome to this week's roundup of news. What's been happening in the beer and hospitality industry? Three articles this week. The first one is it's kind of slipped under the radar. Nobody's really noticed this. That the Master Serves Their Own program has been bought out by two guys who are members of it. So the original guy who founded it has decided to sell up, take some extra time to himself, and two new people have taken over. This, for those that don't know, this program trains people in beer tastes and in aromas, not quite judging the beers, but making sure that it's of good quality. So it's interesting it's been sold because there were talks last year that they were looking to expand it and get more people to take some of its exams. And the two new guys who've taken it over, one's a long-term in the beer industry he's ex-Molson Coors, works in the yeast labs and that, really knows the technical aspects of brewing. And the other guy has come up through the bar side of things, working bars, running bars. So between the two of them, there's a whole wealth of knowledge about the industry. So this is going to be quite a good thing. They're still planning to stay in Chicago, but they are looking to expand it and get more people learning about the quality of beer and making sure that the beer that goes out is, and to the customer and the server at the bar, is in a much higher state than it can be at the moment. The big news this week is that Beer 52 have taken over Ebria, and this is causing a lot of waves, shall we say. So if those that don't know, Ebria is an online trading platform that allows pubs to buy beer directly from breweries, but on one invoice and multiple deliveries. So you, as a pub, you go onto the platform, you order your beer from multiple breweries, they then individually get sent the orders, and they'll put them together and they'll ship them out to you. But you've just got one invoice that you pay when you buy your beer. And then at the end of the month, Ebria send that money over to the individual breweries, taking their cut. Well, Beer 52 have bought Ebria out of administration. It was in administration for a couple of hours, so this is obviously a pre-pack administration, which is illegal in most countries in the world. England's one of the very few where you're allowed to do this. So what that basically means with it going into administration is all of its debts are wiped out. It has no debts, and that includes any outstanding invoices that it's owed. So all of that beer that got shipped through Ebria last month is now gone out. The breweries are not getting paid for that. At least they've not been told they're getting paid for it. They've been told that it's now owned by Beer 52, so they don't take on any of the debts. Now, this is a really shitty thing to do, and the industry is getting really pissed off with this sort of pre-pack administration happening, but there's little to nothing that can be done about it. Now, Beer 52 themselves are trying to be open and honest about this, and I mean, they've got a reasonably dodgy reputation themselves as having possibly the worst unsubscribes system on any internet site. And Ebria themselves as well have also had a bit of a bad reputation in the last few years, more of like a fading reputation, excuse me, where fewer and fewer breweries are actually starting to use them. And there's been things like a rush to the bottom for the pricing, with Ebria trying to tell people breweries to drop the prices on their beers, even though it doesn't make a difference for them. I think they just think if they're cheaper, the more people will buy the beer from them. So if Beer 52 are actually serious about turning Ebria's fortunes around and getting more breweries onto it, they're going to have to stump up the cash and pay those invoices, pay the breweries that have shipped out beer through it, because without that, there's a distinct lack of trust. And the only breweries that are remaining on the platform, this is looking at the brewery forums where brewers are talking, a lot of them, well, some of them are saying that they're going to stay because they made money on the platform before, but a lot are like, no, sorry, there's alternatives now. So you got places like one called Cellar, which is pretty much the same sort of thing, but they've got their own issues with privacy, which they've been addressing. But there are other ones out there, including one that's been set up by somebody who actually is in the industry himself, and that's starting to look like it could just wipe the other two out of the market. So if Beer 52 and Ebria want to stay relevant, they're going to have to pay those invoices to those brewers, even if it's done in a way like no fees for the next however long until they've made up what they've lost. They need to do something. And onto the light news, there's a new micropub opened up in Peterborough. Now, normally I wouldn't cover something like a pub opening, but Peterborough's my hometown, and where this has opened up is a bit of a NIMBY residential area, and it was the people that were putting their planning application for it had to really push for this, and they weren't helped by the local council. One of the Conservative councillors there has been quoted as saying he wasn't convinced that a residential area was the right place for a pub. I'm guessing he never goes into any pubs, but residential areas are where pubs are. They are the heart of their communities. This has been campaigned by several groups over the last several years. Things like the pub as the hub. Pubs are part of the community. Even during all of the COVID lockdowns, we saw how much a part of the community pubs actually were. And the guys that have taken this pub on, or opening up this pub, they used to run a pub nearby that has been closed down because it's scheduled for redevelopment in that area. And that pub used to do its own little community beer festivals. It ran charity nights. It did everything for the community. It had raffles. It was a really popular small community pub. And it's just been redeveloped, so they were kind of kicked out. So the fact that this councillor thinks that this pub is not needed around there just shows how out of touch some councillors actually are. And there's a lot of work that still needs to be done to convince them otherwise. So let's hope they actually go to a pub and see what it's really like. Anyway, cheers.